Hello, my name is David Russell. I'm the Anar Belk Distinguished Professor of Violin at the University of North Carolina at Charlotte. In this video, I'm going to demonstrate some practice techniques for you to use as you prepare for the statewide orchestra conventions leading up to the honors orchestras and all state orchestras. Some things to think about and discuss with your teacher. I hope that you'll find them useful, and here we go. So from the very beginning of the piece, there are three techniques that you'll need to try to be very consistent about doing. The first is a lift between the eighth note and the quarter note that appears at the very beginning like this. We don't want to connect those, but actually lift the bow. The second is this unique bowing that recurs throughout the movement of three slurs and one separate. It happens many times in the movement, so it's important to try and master this. The problem with the bowing is that we don't want to accent. That would be a mistake. So what we have to do is be aware of a heavier bow on the slur and a much lighter bow on the separate, so it will sound even. And the third aspect of this is that after a tie is written into the music, it's important that you stop the bow in order to be clear. And that will appear in places such as here. Which is measure, let's take a look at that. That is, let's go from measure 7. You see, it gives a lot more clarity to stop after a tie rhythmically because our tendency is to overhold those. So the three things to look for in the beginning would be the lifts between the eighths and the quarters, the bow weight on that unique bowing of three slurs and one separate, and stopping your bow after the ties. So I'll play from the beginning a section of this so that you can see how this appears. Another important technique that is seen throughout the first movement is the creeping bow. This is where we have the pattern of the three slurs with the one separate, but we need to move to a different part of the bow in order to keep the sound even. For instance, in this one, I will play in slow motion. This is the very beginning, measure 4. Where you'll notice that I'll start to use more bow on the slur and less on the separate, and I will end up at the frog. In that way, you can do your dynamics better, and you won't choke your sound by being trapped at the tip. So it shows up in a variety of ways. That's the first place. The second place I would draw your attention to is measure 24. You see how the first separate notes happen at the middle, And the second set of separate notes happens near the frog, because I'm using more bow on the slur and less on the separates. So that's something to look for in the creeping bow. It happens throughout the piece in different ways, and I will try to demonstrate the different parts of bow we'll use. All right, so you can see how we use the creeping bow in a variety of ways throughout the movement. I will play from measure 85 through 112, and you'll see the choreography of the bow as it can be used. So as you see, there are some designs that can be made with the bow that enhance the dynamic and keep your sound even. Finally, I'd like to draw your attention to something that should be done generally when you have separate bows and slurs in order to keep things from accenting unevenly. The last separate note before a slur, before a down bow slur, should be lighter than the others. And that will eliminate the tendency to accent. I'll do once an example from measure 160 so that you can see in slow motion how I'm going to lighten the bow just prior to the slur. All right, so let's do it again. I'll do it even slower. All right, then in tempo. The very last thing I want to address is about the fingerings. You know, we will probably all have a different idea of what works for us, but I would like to encourage all of you to use second position when possible, because, you know, it facilitates. It makes things much more efficient. You don't have to jump between first and third position all the time. And if you're not used to second position, the Bach A minor concerto is the perfect time to start getting comfortable with it because it can be so helpful. I will play a small excerpt from measure 43 to, to measure 55. And you'll notice the times that I shift into second position to make things a little bit more efficient. So there you have it, some tips for preparing the first movement of the Bach A minor concerto for your orchestra auditions in the state of North Carolina. I wish you all very good luck, all the best, and keep striving for excellence. Bye.
Your journey as a musician involves hard work, discovery, and making music come alive. How do you become the musician you want to be? At Davidson Violins, we have the expertise to help you become a great musician. Our studios help students learn fundamental techniques that help them play some of the world's most beautiful music. Our luthiers adjust and repair your instrument to ensure you sound your best. Great instruments, bows, and a wide selection of strings allow you to be at your very best in auditions, orchestras, and your personal enjoyment. Come explore the world of string instruments with our staff of professional teachers, luthiers, and players. Visit us at 102A South Main Street in Davidson, North Carolina, or online at davidsonviolins.com. Davidson Violins is here to help you sound your best.